one of the things I do recommend for panic attacks, Wendy, is inhaled terpenes. Some of the
Mhm.
terpenes, limonene, for instance, is one, and there's different combinations of these you can use. When they're inhaled, they have a tendency to really work very quickly within 60 to 90 seconds on patients. A particular formula I came up with for Buffalo Company, they call them terpenaire inhalers. In
Mhm.
my testing in patients, most of my patients with PTSD get a 20% reduction to complete resolution of their anxiety symptoms.
Got a lot of love, yeah, that's for sure. You got music and movies, and friends and medicine. Yeah, is the show for me and you, the one you love to listen to. And ooh, you got your friends, see it through. See, 'cause laughter is medicine too. Said it's medicine too, babe.
Welcome to The Edge Show, your award-winning podcast, sponsored by Caris Healthcare and the Relevant app. The opinions expressed on the show are not necessarily those of producer A Edge Productions. I'm your co-host, Branden Lee, and here's your host, Wendy Love Edge.
Hey everyone, remember we don't dispense medical advice and all your health choices are your own. This is season 6, episode 14. How can we deal with anxiety? Oh, hey Brandon, how are you today? A little
I'm
anxious
doing good.
maybe? I don't know.
I think both of us are a little bit, and I think everyone could probably agree that it's been pretty stressful, and a lot of that anxiety has washed over us in the last few years or months or even weeks or days or hours. Uh,
Yeah, it's been
yeah, I
it's
deal with it.
been yeah, it's been a lot to deal with in the world for the last couple of years. Even people who maybe never really experienced much anxiety. I mean, everyone experiences stress to one degree or another.
Sure.
Even good things cause stress,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
But I think that it's kind of ramped up just a little bit.
I think everyone's world kind of got turned upside down,
Mhm.
everyone's routines and careers and hobbies and all of those things just got turned for a loop. And so, yeah, I think it did cause some people that did not have anxiety before a little bit more anxiety and maybe something that they've never dealt with in their lives.
Right.
So
Mhm.
I definitely have added anxiety, but I definitely deal with it. And I love this topic today because it's something that
Mhm.
I think everyone can kind of relate with. Even if you don't go through a lot, you probably deal with someone that does. So this might be
Yes.
helpful for everyone.
Yes, that's so true. I have anxiety and PTS. I don't like to say PTSD because it's not a disorder. It's just a brain change that happens after a traumatic event. Um, Not just, but
Right.
so some of the symptoms of anxiety are similar with PTS, and I've definitely dealt with it really most of my life. So I have a giant toolbox of things that I use to try to reduce anxiety. And sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. Sometimes one works better than another. So it's good to have a big array of things that you can try to just settle yourself down.
Yeah, and so we're going to give people a toolbox today, right? We're going to give them some tools and how they can deal with their anxiety.
Yes, yes, we have two great guests who will give some tools in a little more detail. But I wanted to mention, so I put out there on social media, I just asked the question, what do you do for anxiety and PTS besides cannabis? Because cannabis definitely can help, but as we always say, it's not for everybody. And there's so many other things that can help. And I got 179 responses.
It seems like everyone's a professional, an expert at this, like how I
Right.
deal with mine. So yeah, that just kind of shows you how many people are dealing with it, and that there are a lot of different approaches of how people can kind of, help their anxiety, or at least navigate through it.
Right, for sure. And so I thought we could just talk about some of those a little bit. Um, there was a lot of repeat, which is great. It just sort of reinforces, oh, this can work for a lot of people. One of the things that was sort of a repetitive answer was breathing techniques, breath work, meditation with breathing. And I think that that is something that people can do anywhere. Just learn to do some deep breaths. There's all different methods out there. And later in the show, we're going to talk about Qigong, which includes some breathing. But it was interesting to me, lots of people recognize that breath is something that can help you if you're feeling anxious.
Yeah, I mean, it breathing slows your heart rate down.
Mhm.
It slows everything down for you. And maybe if you're focusing on that, you're not focusing on what sometimes feels like piling on anxiety.
Mhm.
I get a lot of that, where I get a lot of high level stress. I think I even get a little bit anxious. I announce for the Razorbacks, and so
Mhm.
sometimes when you're in front of a big crowd, that can be anxiety ridden. And as you said, it can be
Yes.
a good thing. It doesn't always have to be a bad thing that you have anxiety about.
Right.
Um, but it's going in from those moments of being in a quiet place, and then going in front of 4,000, 5,000
Mhm.
people. And so you do get anxiety. And I have noticed that too. Breathing is a big thing.
Mhm.
Backing it out, counting backwards, doing some
Yes.
Lamaze breathing, as I call it. My mother was she did Lamaze classes
Right.
as a nurse. And so
And
she would
not
always do
just
the
for pregnant
breathing techniques.
women, not just for
No,
birth.
it's
Right.
not. But it
Yes.
helps in pain, and it helps anxiety. I think it's a great way.
Right. And you
It's a
don't
great
need
tool.
to have anything with you,
No,
you can just start to slow down your breath, do some deep breathing into your diaphragm. So it's a great, great tool. Another thing that came up several times was breaking things. People were saying they go and buy, at the thrift store, some old plates and stuff, and then just take some time and just break a bunch of stuff.
I was talking to a friend that did this. Like, she went to a, secondhand store, got a bunch of glass,
Uh-huh.
and said that they brought it out to a lot, and just started smashing things. And of course, you got to clean up your mess. Don't go out
Right.
there and do this and then just leave it.
Right.
Like, it's Office Space. It comes to mind, the movie Office Space, where they
Uh-huh.
bring the printer out there and start bashing it.
Oh,
Uh,
right. Oh my gosh.
yeah,
Yeah.
you're putting your anxiety there and you're bashing it up. I think that's a good way. It may be an aggressive approach, but
Right.
it seems like, when I talked to her about it, she said, she still recalls it as being a really great freeing moment,
hmm
where
Yes.
you're kind of just releasing all that anxiety.
Some other things that people mentioned were, things like yoga, hypnosis. There's lots of complementary health activities that you can engage in that will help to center and, bring that anxiety down. It may just be for the duration of the class, or as you do it over time, you might see an improvement. You've been doing yoga for a while now, haven't you?
I have. I've been doing it for about, I would say, about a half a year now, like every day. Every day
Mhm.
I'll do, even though just a little bit. And I found it applies to my life and the stress in that, and just feeling a little bit better. Like, I feel like if you have a routine, a physical workout routine, you just feel about better about your entire day. So
Right.
I've definitely noticed that. Now, if I'm really stressed, I'm like, I need to go stretch.
Right,
Like,
right. A
it's
lot
not
of
really
people,
bad.
yeah, a lot of people did say just exercise in general, like just go do something physical and
Yes.
it will help relieve the
Yeah.
anxiety they're
A
feeling.
lot of people don't know this. I play a lot of basketball too. I play a couple times
Mhm.
a week with basketball, and it's a team sport. It's really high energy, and you're running around. And I find that also, having that, even going for a walk and going, like, just getting your blood
Mhm.
pumping, and not focusing on those things that are stressing you out, and just have that, clear mind. When I'm playing basketball, or if I'm doing yoga, I'm not thinking about the millions of other things that I could be thinking about, or having
Mhm.
stress or anxiety about. and it kind of clears that and gives you a little bit your mind a little bit of time to process that stuff and not have to just overheat thinking about all the stress.
For sure. Yeah. A couple of other things I thought, and these have helped me too, is art therapy. You know, I'm an artist, and it is therapy, whether it's something, you know, that I want to show or not. Like it could just be getting that paint and using my hands, and, you know, art really can help to reduce anxiety.
Now, does it give you any anxiety to do that? I know that, you know, I see people, they get frustrated with things that like a painting or a picture they don't like, or does anything like any art give you stress?
I can see how that could be for some people. I think maybe at times, if it's not quite going the way I envision,
Yeah.
you know, I can feel a little stressed about it or get anxious. I usually, if that happens, I walk away from it and come back to it the next day, and it doesn't feel, because I don't like, if I'm gonna create, I don't want it to be angsty at all, you know.
Sure, yeah.
But
You don't want to like, oh, the artist was really angsty on this.
but some people might, you know, want to delve in when they're feeling really angsty. It's a different kind of product, right?
Yeah, or maybe you have a whole different piece that is just like, hey, this is to help me de-stress. You know, you don't have to have it that project that you're really trying to work on. Maybe it's just something totally besides that, and maybe more abstract, and maybe more, you know, just getting that stress out. So, you know,
for sure.
that's definitely could be something that could help you.
Yeah. And there's so much more on the list, but the final one I wanted to mention, because it really resonated with me. There's many times that the anxiety can be worrying about the future, right? But for me, a lot of times I'm looking back at things and feeling, you know, upset about something that I did or said, or, you know, and so this Amanda Ashley, she's actually a therapist in Florida, and her comment really resonated with me. And it basically, the gist of it is, we're all human having a human experience. And once she took that to heart, it's easier to accept all the happenings, good, bad, and indifferent. You know, we're just having a human experience, you know?
Yeah, we're living in the moment. And, you know, I think that a lot of people get in their own heads about that. I've been really in these last few years realizing that things aren't as important as sometimes I think they are. You know, and they're as important as they are to me. I understand that it may just be a blip in someone's brain, or something that is not as stressful as what I'm making it, you know. And I've realized a lot of people spin their wheels and do a lot of energy into projects that get barely any you know, resonance. And really, if you realize this, that everyone is having this experience, and you know, and they're entitled to all these things, but you can kind of just put yourself back a little bit and realize that it's not as stressful as we need it to make it. As I literally just like 10 minutes ago stressing out about getting onto the show and everything, but I should be telling myself the same thing. So you got to you also have to remind yourself this stuff. It's not like everyone's got it figured out either. So it's definitely a daily and hourly and even a minute by minute struggle for some people. So.
Absolutely. And you may have it all together for a long time, and then one day you wake up and the cycle can start.
Yes.
So having a lot of these tools, you know, in your toolbox will really help to say, okay, this is what I'm going to try today to.
Yeah, it's great to have, and it's great to have other people's opinions on this, because remember, a lot of people have gone through all sorts of things. So having those tools and man, having all those people to respond, Wendy, it's really awesome to have all the help of the community with that.
That's one of the things I love about this show, is the community. Everyone was like, I think in the beginning they thought I was asking for myself. Yeah. And that really warmed my heart too.
Yeah, they like care about you. Like, Wendy, do you need?
Yes, right. So, oh well, I've done this, and you could try that, and then it turned into more of a general list. But yes, so thank you so much for all the responses. And coming up next, we're going to hear from Dr. Branden Nichol about anxiety and cannabis. Joining me now is cannabis expert MD, Dr. Branden Nichol. Welcome back to the show, Dr. Nichol.
Great to be here, Wendy.
Yes. So today we're talking about anxiety, and how we can reduce anxiety. So I'd love to first start with, what exactly is anxiety?
Well, anxiety, that's more or less the overwhelming fear of a situation, really where your fear is way out of line with the threat.
Hmm.
You may be afraid of cats, like Tinkerbell here, even though she poses no actual threat to you, just being
Uh-huh.
around a cat makes you feel like you're going to die. You want to remove yourself from that situation. So it's really unwarranted fear of a particular situation you're in, or object, whatever it may be, whatever kind of a
Hmm.
triggering thing there is on you.
And what kind of symptoms do people experience?
Well, certainly nervousness is one of them. Typically, people will get an increased heart rate. They'll start breathing quickly. Very oftentimes, they will start to get shaky and are really looking to escape from whatever situation they're in. Those are the
Mhm.
most common symptoms that most patients are probably familiar with.
Right. I think sometimes, uh, I know for myself, before I kind of had a label for it, I would get these kind of symptoms. I'd feel uneasy or my heart would start pounding, and I didn't really know what it was. Sometimes you can even feel like you're gonna die, really,
Oh, yeah.
Um,
Particularly
and
with the panic attacks, when those occur,
mm,
people will feel like they are going to die.
yes, right. And so, and I think it seems like the prevalence of it is increasing. Maybe it's just my, you know, circle. I don't know, but I hear people talking a lot more about feeling anxious, feeling worried, and seeing some symptoms in their body. Do you think the prevalence has increased recently?
Well, it sure seems to be not necessarily the instance of things like PTSD, perhaps, but anxiety as a general symptom has. But it's a mad world these days, I guess, with
Hmm.
the COVID thing over the last several years. That has been a big stressor on people. With the difficulties with inflation, the economy, that's another stressor on people. You combine that with the general state of the world, with the wars going on now, and threats and rumors of wars to come. There's a lot of things for people to be stressed out about, and that usually manifests as symptoms of anxiety.
Hmm. For sure. And it seems like also people who have chronic illnesses may have anxiety kind of secondary to that. Do you see that in your patients?
Well, certainly, especially for patients that have difficulty with ambulation or perhaps
Mm.
performing certain tasks, when they're put in situations where they may have to perform those, they develop anxiety that they're not going to be able to live up to expectations.
Mm.
So that is something that you do see along with it. Very oftentimes, you're going to see depression and anxiety coexisting in a lot of
Mhm.
things. Sometimes the depression's a result of the anxiety, actually.
Hmm. Right. Yeah. Oh, I guess I could see that. I know sometimes, I'm an anxiety sufferer and depression, but I can see how that is true, that happens. Gosh, I can't get a handle on this anxiety. It's driving me insane. And then you just sort of feel down about it,
Yeah. And then you
I,
start blaming yourself because,
Mhm.
why am I afraid of driving across a bridge? That's stupid.
Mhm.
Start blaming yourself, and then the depression sets in. You can get into a little bit of a cycle like that. It's
Right,
not uncommon.
for sure. So let's talk a little bit about cannabis and how it might be able to help in the different forms. So I'm assuming, I know cannabis has helped me with anxiety. So I think that's one of the things. I don't know if it's a listed diagnosis in Arkansas that you
No,
can
ma'am,
get.
it is not.
It is
It
not.
is not. No, it
Uh,
is not.
so
That doesn't mean we don't
strange.
treat it all the time, though, Wendy.
Right, right, right. And I'm sure in other states it's the same thing. It may not be a listed diagnosis to get your card, but it's associated with so many things. So, does cannabis help with anxiety for most people?
It can.
Hmm.
It can also cause anxiety in some patients. So,
Hmm.
as with almost everything medically and with cannabis, it's a two-edged sword with everything.
Hmm. So, let's talk about how and why it could increase the symptoms.
Well, THC in particular, if we're just looking at THC as an individual cannabinoid, now most patients do kind of find the effects of cannabis pleasant, the euphoric effects. Some patients don't. And a lot of the ones that do not find it pleasant, it is the anxiety that is the side effect that bothers them. That
Mhm.
doesn't occur in everybody, and it tends to occur mostly with really high THC use. When patients are using something like a straight distillate of delta 9 THC, we see a lot higher incidence of anxiety than when we see patients using a whole plant dose of delta 9 THC, even if it is at the same number of milligrams. It is thought that the other chemicals, the terpenes and other cannabinoids present in the whole plant material are actually the antidote, the cure for anxiety that THC does produce in certain patients.
Mhm.
And that may be why you'll hear patients report back, some strains help me with anxiety, while other ones make them worse.
Mhm.
It may be the additional cannabinoids and terpenes present in one strain moderate the anxiety producing effects of the THC that the other strain was lacking.
So what other components of the plant should people look for? CBD with maybe a minimal amount of THC. What else should they look for? Beta carophylline sounds like it's one of them. Um,
It's a nice one. It's not overly sedating. It does help with some anxiety and depression symptoms for patients that are looking for more sedation on the side of things. You really need to come down. That's when we look at strains that are perhaps higher in some of the terpenes, such as myrcene, which can be quite sedating in patients, linalool, and perhaps some terpinolene in there because it will be more sedating and help patients kind of come down off of almost like a panic attack thing. One of the things I do recommend for panic attacks, Wendy, is inhaled terpenes. Some of the
mhm,
terpenes, limonene, for instance, is one, and there's different combinations of these you can use. When they're inhaled, they have a tendency to really work very quickly within 60 to 90 seconds on patients. A particular formula I came up with for Buffalo Company, they call them Terpenair inhalers. In
mhm.
my testing in patients, most of my patients with PTSD get a 20% reduction to complete resolution of their anxiety symptoms. Lasts about 15 minutes to an hour, long enough for a panic attack. Really not long enough to control 24 hours, 7 days symptoms unless you walk
Mhm.
around with one of those inhalers in your nose all day long.
Well, I
That's
have to
when you,
say, I have done that. I think I was telling you on days that have been a little more challenging, just sort of put it in my nose and leave it there for a while. But that's brilliant, being able to have those in your pocket. I'm always excited about self-driven care, like when patients can have something that they just pull out of their pocket to take a whiff of it and maybe it'll break up a panic, the start of a panic attack or increased anxiety. So thank you for creating those. It's amazing.
well, I'm just so happy that they're really helping patients out. And the nice thing about the terpenes is they're not impairing, as you
Mhm.
remember from probably trying the reboot inhaler. They don't sedate you at all. They give you a little
Right.
bit of a mood lift, but they do bring down the anxiety levels. I always tell patients, look, it's the kind of thing. I do have patients with PTSD, really from automobile accidents, and when a bridge is coming up, like where you had that accident on, they're
Mhm.
able to use a inhaled terpene thing and not have to worry about being impaired at all while they're driving.
Right. Well, some of the drugs that you mentioned that work on that GABA area of the brain are frequently prescribed, but the side effects can be pretty hefty, and long-term use of them, I think, can be damaging in some way.
Well, the benzodiazepines again, Xanax is very commonly prescribed for panic attacks. A lot of patients that have longer lived anxiety symptoms, we put them on Klonopin or Valium. Now they are effective for anxiety, but you do get dependent on these drugs.
Mhm.
Very typically, patients will have to do dose escalations to control their symptoms. With cannabis, if or CBD, if you stop taking it, you might feel a little funky for a few days, but
Mhm.
no real danger to you on discontinuation. With these benzodiazepines, if you stop them abruptly, it increases your chances for having seizures, some of which can
Wow.
be fatal in patients.
Mhm.
So again, safety profile, benzodiazepines versus the cannabinoids. Cannabinoids
Mhm.
win every time.
Right, right. Thank you so much for the information. As I said in the beginning, I feel like anxiety is more prevalent than it was, but it may just be the state of things in the world. We've all been through a recent trauma, really, all of us, with the pandemic. And so it may be, simply that. And it's so great that we have these things at our disposal. The information is key, though, so people understand the best way to use them.
It is. In order to use cannabis as a medication, you have to become educated yourself. And as you've learned, Wendy, the more you know about it, the better you do.
Yes, for sure. So if you could give your website so people can get in touch with you, that would be great.
Sure. We're available at cannabisexpertmd.com. And as always, we're on Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, and Twitter under Cannabis Expert MD. Please follow and like me there so you don't miss anything.
Excellent. Thanks so much for joining me.
Pleasure, Wendy. Look forward to seeing you soon.
Joining me now is Maria Chowdhury. She is an herbalist and was a midwife for 20 years. She is the founder of Birth SongBotanicals and also Path with Harmony Qigong for the Awakening Woman. Welcome back to the show, Maria.
Thank you. It's such an honor to be here.
Yes, I am so excited to chat with you. It's been a while, and you always have such wonderful things to contribute. So this episode is about anxiety, which many people suffer from effects of anxiety, especially today. And I think you have many tools in your toolbox for anxiety. So I'm excited to chat with you. I thought maybe we could start with Qigong. And first, could you kind of define the practice for us and talk about how it applies to anxiety?
We're born with energy, right? And we still have some because we're here. So we have some of that energy that we're born with. Mm-hmm. And then we also need to get more energy. So we breathe, we eat, we drink. We have connections with people. We have interactions. We take herbs. Those are ways we get more energy. Mm-hmm. And so what Qigong is a practice of cultivating energy, meaning we want to get it. We want to like all those things I said, we want to bring in more energy. We want to circulate the energy that we have. And we want to cultivate the energy to improve its quality. Mm-hmm. So like you can eat junk food and you've eaten food, but are you nourished? Or you can eat some really nourishing foods and you have the calories. And so you're improving the qi by making choices of the foods you eat, right? You're improving the qi in your body when we pause and we take a nice deep breath.
For our viewers and listeners, we're talking about breath and energy. And just so they have a better idea, we're also moving the body during these times with the breath and the energy. Is that true?
Qigong can be a physical movement practice. And there are a few principles in the type of Qigong that I practice, which is medical Qigong. So it's medicine. Mm-hmm. And so in that practice, we are doing soft, gentle, fluid motions.
Okay.
They tend to be incredibly simple. They're not complicated. They are simple, and we tend to do them repeating. We repeat it over and over, and then you go into this trance-like flow state.
Okay.
Right? We all want to get into the flow state. Mm-hmm. We all want less stress, more peace, more ease.
I see. So when people are suffering with anxiety, overload of stress, fear, it seems like I know, I have anxiety, and I know when I'm in it, I'm not really in my body. I recognize that. And when I can get to a little better frame of mind, I can use some of those tools to kind of get in the body. It sounds like this practice, that's part of what's happening. Is that the case?
You don't know what to do. Just remember, take a nice deep breath. right?
Yes.
That's the first thing. And just anchor into your breath. And we'll do a breath work practice. And then from there, you want to drop into your center. And so that's why we have to do this over and over. You just described it perfectly. I'm outside of my body. And so come into your center. So your breath is going to come into your center. And if you do deep abdominal breathing, that will bring your mind to your belly. And think of your center as in the middle of your belly.
So I know you're also an herbalist, and I wanted to just kind of touch base a little bit about some herbs that people could add. If, let's say, they've been anxious or in fight, flight, or freeze for a long time, sometimes it's hard to get started with the breath and having an answer right then that will help. Are there any herbal remedies that you would suggest that people might try?
So two. So one would be more long term, and that would be drinking nourishing herbal teas. And I have it right behind me, Women's Balance. I think you might have even tried it.
I did.
You personally. Yeah. And so why I would point to Women's Balance is because it has nourishing herbs. When you're in fight, flight, or freeze for a long time, you're depleted, right? And your nerve endings are a little frazzled and you're depleted. And so to nourish you, that's I would say is one of the most important things. And then also Women's Balance has adaptogenic herbs, ashwagandha, which is incredibly soothing to frazzled nervous system, and it's nourishing and it helps you get the sleep, but then it also helps you give you energy. So herbs like Qigong, like people, they're multidimensional and they can do more than one thing.
Right.
But also back Women's Balance one more time is just it has lemon balm in it, and it's a real joyful herb. So it brings, it's like drinking joy and nourishment and stability. But in the moment, you're not going to drink a cup of Women's Balance tea. I mean, you might, because you would stop and breathe and smell and connect with the vapor and feel the heat in your hands. And you could really maybe slow down, and just the act of slowing down and mindfully drinking the tea, that can totally shift you. At the same time, you might be in traffic or at the grocery store or wherever, and you're stressed out and you're doing your thing. Or you're on a show real quick and you can't. Right. And then I have Solid and Serene. And so these are drops, and they are more for in the moment. Like you're having the symptoms, you're feeling stressed. And what you would do for those that are listening and not watching, you would have a sip of water and you'd put a little water under your tongue. And then you just take it under your tongue.
Easy.
You would hold it there a little longer, but you want to hold it under your tongue sublingually, and it'll absorb much faster. And when you're the art of dosing is art, right? You're going to have to figure out your best way. But you take a half a dropper, that's what's going to naturally fill up in your dropper. Take about a half a dropper, hold it under your tongue till you have to swallow, wait 15 minutes, see how you feel. Take another half a dropper, wait 15 minutes, see how you feel. Take another half a dropper, wait 15 minutes. You can do that like about 5 times.
That's great if someone is, on the verge of a panic attack or really feeling very stressed. It's something you can kind of keep in your pocket. What is the blend?
Absolutely.
What is the blend of herbs in that tincture?
So it's really simple, and I love simple. So it's chamomile, catnip, passion flower, and valerian.
Oh, perfect. Yes.
And so I think of chamomile like a grandmother, right? So chamomile is sometimes described as a grandmother. So here you are, you're stressed out, you're panicking, you don't know. And then isn't it wonderful when the wise grandmother holds you and loves you and shares with you, tells you what you need? So that's what this remedy does. It's called Solid and Serene. So you can tap into your center, come back to yourself, root down, and feel stable.
And I agree. The Women's Balance, I was going through a difficult time, actually. You didn't know that when you gave it to me. And it really helped me to balance. And then I believe I got some more later, but the first batch, I was using it really every day to get myself back into that balance. So it's nice to have these tools and to know what's available, and that it's self-driven too. I think this is really important. You know, the mainstream medical system is going to do something to you if you go there and say, I'm very anxious and stressed, maybe give you a pill, or, you know, but this is really self-driven. You can learn these tools and learn where to get some of them also. So it's brilliant. So where can people get in touch with you, Maria?
Well, they can get in touch. So when you go to pathwithharmony.com, you'll see on top there's a header and it says 7 minutes for immune health. You can see a little video. You can practice Qigong with me out in the forest for 7 minutes to boost your immune system. And then for those that want to see what a whole class is like, they can, you'll see the button, try a free class. And it was a fun class I did, all about attuning your body to the frequency of peace, harmony, and freedom. And it was gorgeous. It was an event to raise money for peace in Ukraine. So it's a peaceful event. And so it's an hour session. And so you can have full access to that. It was really great. And then if you like it, then you can join online. And we have evening classes and morning classes, and reach out to me and ask me questions about it. So make sure you're in the right place. But that's the best way. And then for when you go to that website, you'll see botanicals. And then when you click on the botanicals, you'll be taken to my sister website, which is Birth SongBotanicals. And that's when you'll find Solid and Serene and Women's Balance and a whole host of other nourishing herbs that will support you.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for joining me.
Oh, I have one more piece I'd like to give to you because I love you so much, Wendy, and all your listeners. I shared with you that I want to practice a breath together. But the best way to do that now is to go to Path with Harmony. Under meditations, you'll see wave breath meditation. And you can practice that wave breath meditation. And then that'll be a tool for you to have forever to use anytime.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Miss Teddy here with your Food is Medicine Minute. This episode we are talking about anxiety. So the list of foods that I'm going to give you contain tryptophan, which helps your body produce melatonin, which helps you sleep. And without enough sleep, we can be very, very stressed. They contain anti-inflammatory properties because if our body is inflamed, we feel pain, and pain can cause us stress as well. They also contain antioxidants because if we are bogged down with all those auxins and poison in our body, we are not going to be happy, and we're going to be worried, and we're going to be stressed. So these foods are asparagus, avocados, berries, chamomile, dark chocolate, extra virgin olive oil, green tea, nuts, oranges, oysters, organ meat, pumpkin seeds, parsley, salmon, spinach, shiitake mushrooms, Swiss chard, turkey, tuna, turmeric, whole grains, and yogurts. That's a pretty long list. For more information on Food is Medicine, please feel free to contact me at Learn from Teddy on Facebook. Thank you.
Well, that was some great information. It's always so great to see Maria Chowdhury. She's like totally zen and always has just packed with information. So that was, I hope everyone else felt the same way. So Branden, have you been watching anything?
You know what, Wendy? We always make it a point to watch something. And you know, with all the sports going on and all the things we were doing, but I actually sat down and watched a movie, and I don't do that very often. But my friend gave me the password to Disney Plus, so I decided to watch something. And it was a movie that came out a little while ago called Coco, which, if you're into music, if you're a musician, this is a tearjerker. I was holding back every once in a while. You know, you're supposed to let your emotions go sometimes, I guess. But I was just like, oh my God. there's so many good moments in that, and it kind of centered around Mexico, Day of the Dead, and how your families pass over when they pass away. In this story, they don't die; they go to this other place,
Hmm.
and your family has to have a picture of you on Day of the Dead there in Mexico, which they celebrate, and then you can
Mhm.
go celebrate them on that one day as you cross over. So that's kind of the gist of the whole thing. But if you're a musician, it's just one of those movies that is just really moving. So I was
Wow.
so impressed. I believe it's a Pixar movie, but it's one of those buds way up, and
Lots of buds.
yeah, and if you get emotional while you're while you're high or doing this, be careful
Oh,
because it
wow.
can send you for a loop. It was very moving, especially at the very end. So highly recommend it. Coco was excellent, and I believe they also have a Spanish version of this, which I've
Oh,
heard is also a awesome to watch, even if you don't know very much Spanish. So
nice.
definitely worth it. Go watch that one. That one's on Disney Plus.
Nice. So is it animated?
It is animated,
Oh,
yes,
okay.
and
Wow.
it's excellent. Like I know that I don't
Like
watch
all the
too many
buds go
cartoons.
there.
All the butts.
Yeah.
It's so good. I was impressed from and the music in it and just the whole storyline was. I
Nice.
definitely recommend it. That's on Disney Plus, and if you
Mhm.
got a chance to see that, or if you have a friend with a password like I do, you can definitely watch it. It's worth it.
Did you hear Netflix is not going to allow that anymore? I couldn't believe it. So many people share Netflix accounts.
Yeah, I don't think it's a great move.
No.
We'll see how they walk that one back eventually when other people
Right.
take over.
I know because they raised their prices and they took that away. So I don't know. I agree with you. They're gonna walk back. We're just waiting for that to happen.
Yes, eventually.
I've been revisiting Mrs. Maisel because I watched the new season that's on Prime, and I think it's very good. I think the storyline with Lenny Bruce is not exactly historically correct, or
Oh,
for what he or maybe it's historically correct, but they kind of lift him up a little more than maybe what it really was.
I see.
Um,
Embellish him a little bit.
a little bit, yeah. But I love all the Jewish culture in it. I relate to that, and being here in Northwest Arkansas, I don't get a lot of that. I have to say.
Yeah, I mean,
Although my dad used to say, there are Jews all over the world. We got orange Jews, we got, but some places, of course, have more than others. And as I get older, I think we all do this as we get older. We kind of gravitate towards the culture we came from a little more, maybe. I don't
doesn't
know.
it seem like that? It does seem like that. Like you want to keep up your heritage and all of those things and revisit that stuff.
Yeah,
Uh,
and I think the series kind of allows that, and the storyline is great. Midge, I can't remember the actress's name, but she's phenomenal. So I definitely give it all the buds also. And I know it's been a while. It's the last season that's out. It's been a little while, but I forgot a lot of things. So I like to go back and rewatch after I watch a new season.
yeah, I'm definitely a fan of like letting stuff rest and coming back and watching it again. And it's crazy how much you miss with all the
Yes,
things.
absolutely.
It's like
Yes.
was I not paying attention? What happened there?
Right,
So it's nice to
exactly.
maybe watch that stuff over.
Mhm. For sure. Well, coming up next, Dr. Brian Nichol will pair cannabis strain with our musical guest.
I'm Dr. Brian Nichol, your cannabis expert for CannabisExpertMD.com with a music and cannabis pairing for the Ed Show. The musical guest this week is Theody. They're from Fayetteville, Arkansas. They are described as a hard rock band. They formed from a solo project that singer Lauren Kinder first started. She teamed up with her husband, Chris. He plays bass guitar in the band. And Chad Wonderly, I believe is how you pronounce his name. He joined the group in 2016 as a drummer. He lays down a very powerful foundation for the band to work with. Several of their talented musician friends, they play guitar with the band also. Now they got 2 albums out, 2016's Define the Relationship and the 2021 release Smoke and Mirrors. The band's on tour this summer. They've actually got a show in my neighborhood. I hope to be able to check them out when they're in town. I listened to Tempest. It was really an excellent performance by everyone in the band. It was very well produced and mixed. The sound reminded me a little bit of kind of a garbage sound, with Lauren's really powerful but graceful vocals laid on the mix. And then there's a little bit of a type O negative metal kind of vibe to it. I mean, what more can you ask for in a band, right? For this, I was looking for a very energizing strain to go with this high energy song. For this, I selected Natural State Medicinal's Flow OG. Now, Flow is a potent strain at 17.5% total THC. A little bit of trace CBD is present. Looking at the terpenes, it's very potent at 2.1% total terpenes, heavily limonene dominant at 0.94%. Pinene up next with a whole 0.42% showing. Beta-caryophyllene is next at 0.38. We have linalool at 0.16%, a little bit of myrcene at 0.10%, and a little showing of humulene right about that same percentage. Now, Flow OG, it should be very sativa-like in the effects that it produces. The limonene, now that will help with anxiety as it usually does, should give you kind of a happy mood lift also. Combining with the pinene, that's going to give you some focus and energy. The beta-caryophyllene, it might help with any depression you might having present and might help relieve some of the inflammation you experience after hanging out in the slam pit a little bit. Then the myrcene kind of settles in with a little bit of linalool to take a bit of the edge off the limonene and pinene effects. Now, it should be just the thing to enjoy at a high-energy show, although really patients that are prone to anxiety or have PTSD and panic attacks, you might want to avoid this one as it can make those symptoms worse. For more information on all things medical cannabis, be sure to check us out at CannabisExpertMD.com. We're also available on YouTube, Instagram, Facebook, and Twitter under Cannabis Expert MD.
Hi, everyone. I'm Candis Dyer.
And I'm Wendy Love Edge.
And this is Mile High News.
So, Candice, what article do we have today?
Well, Wendy, we got some very exciting news out of New Mexico. They legalized cannabis recreationally.
Whoa, that's great news.
Right as of April 1st, anyone 21 or older can purchase up to 2 ounces of cannabis or comparable amounts of liquid concentrate and edible treats. On the first day, sales reached almost 2 million by early Friday evening and 4.5 million during opening weekend.
Whoa, that's a lot of money. Just think what the state can do with that, with roads and schools and so much more.
For sure, like helping the homeless, there's endless possibilities.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely New Mexico is among 18 states, including neighboring Arizona and Colorado, as well as the entire West Coast, that have legalized cannabis recreational use. I know there are pros and cons about whether it should be medical or whether it should be rec, and I figured we could talk a little bit about some of those.
Absolutely. I know with medical, one of the pros I think is that they definitely will grow really good medical strains for people, and they will have access to the medicine in ways that you don't really see when it's full legalization or the dispensaries that are just geared towards recreational use.
For sure. There's and that you're not getting any pesticides or mm-hmm. What's going in there.
Right. That's true. I don't know if I've ever even been in a recreational dispensary. Does it have all the information about the strain like they do in a medical dispensary?
Oh, yes, okay. Yes, they will have the amount of THC. Where any good dispensary will also have a way that you can look and see exactly what place grew it. All the different things that was found in their lab reports. Mm-hmm. So you can get all that too in the dispensaries
when it's rec. Oh, that's good to know. I think I live in a state that is just medical without grow rights, and one of the things that really irks me is the tax is 13%. And it's only patients. Like, what other medicine is taxed so heavily or taxed at all? Right. It just boggles my mind. It's one thing if it's rec and it's taxed, I get that. And that
Right.
makes sense. And it can help all the things we mentioned, like roads and schools and all that,
Definitely. They shouldn't be taxing your medicine.
Right.
And I know another, I guess you would say, con against the medical part is it's very expensive. Like you got to go see your doctor, and you got to pay for your meds, and all of that racks up pretty hefty, bill for you. And you can't use your insurance like you can on your other medication because it's not federally legal. So you're out of pocket a lot of money, and a lot of people can't afford that. So
oh yeah, legalization does not equal access for sure.
right.
But on the rec side, you don't have to go and pay that doctor visit every year or the fee to the state. Many doctors charge $200 and up for those recommendations, which I think is criminal.
Yes.
And then the state has their fee, and you have to do this every year.
We want everybody who needs access to this medicine to have it.
Absolutely.
And not be charged up the butt, prices for getting better.
Yeah, well, it's great to see that New Mexico is headed down the right path by adding full adult use legalization and with grow rights. So hopefully more states will continue to do this.
Absolutely. This has been a Mile High News Report on The Ed Show. Stay lit, everyone.
Well, what a great show it's been. So Branden, I was thinking we haven't checked in with each other in the last few episodes about how we're doing on our wellness plans.
Well, I just add a bunch of anxiety to my day, and it just runs around. I've been doing great. No, I've been doing really well. Man, it's so crazy how you can start seeing results, if you just stay determined and really, you can be as motivated as you want. You got to be disciplined. I have put this into my day to where I'm doing this, and I totally know a difference. People are telling me they can see a difference, which is really great. And I'm actually getting ready to start another diet coming up on Monday, which involves it's a weight loss diet, but a lot of people think that you don't eat on a weight loss diet. I'm eating every 2 hours on this diet plan, and so it's a really great one that involves a lot of protein and a lot of that mixed vegetable, like the blend, the powder. A lot of that kind of stuff. And so I'm going to try it out. They promise that you can lose a lot of weight with it. And obviously I'm not trying to just cut pounds or anything, but it is going to be spring and summertime. So I figured I'd try it out and see how it made me feel. And so the wellness journey is going good. But how's it going with you, Wendy? Are you sticking to the plans?
I have been doing pretty well. So now that Mary Jane is trained, I can walk her. So I've been walking her almost every day. She lets me know on the days that I don't.
Yeah,
for sure. And so that's helped both of us. I really it helps to motivate me. I realize that when she doesn't have the walk, she's upset about it. She's missing it, and I want her to be happy, of course. And then it helps me to keep moving. I'm also doing just some continuing to do now for months, actually, arm exercises with some small weights. I've progressed a little bit. I actually started with just cans, one can in each hand.
Yeah, that's great. That's a great idea.
Yeah, and that was a great start. And now I'm up to a couple of pounds. I mean, it's still not a lot, but it's kind of just keeping my upper body conditioned and doing the walking with Mary Jane. The eating has been up and down. I'm not going to lie about it.
Yeah.
Anxiety for me, food is one of the go-to terrible ways
right. Your comfort,
to reduce anxiety. It's comfort. actually happy to be saying it out loud here on the air. I know lots of people share that with me, and I think, you know, we can overcome it.
And we say this almost every episode, you're not alone. You know,
Yes.
we all go through all of these things, and you know, you just got to deal them as they come to you. And so, yeah, using these tools that we've talked about today are so helpful, and I hope that you guys can use these and apply them to your lives, because no one wants to go around being stressed out. No one, and no one wants to deal with your stress either. So
True,
so it's a
true.
good thing, and hopefully you can use these tools and apply them.
Excellent. Well, have a great week, everyone. Bye.
The Ed Show is sponsored in part by Caris Healthcare, The Relevant app, Lit Premium Smoking Supplies, 131 Inclusion Gallery, Irie Bliss Wellness, The Balm Cannabis Body Care, Lindsay Camp with Synergy One Lending, Off Leash Canine Training, and Green Harvest Health, inviting you to reclaim your wellness.